Energy vampires drain people's energy merely by talking to them. We either bore you with a long conversation or we enrage you.
let's start from the beginning. Would you guys mind introducing yourselves?
I am Tom Mucciarino, guitar player for Sea of Bones and vocalist.
I'm Kevin Wigginton. I play drums and contribute vocals.
And Gary. I am the bassist and sometimes vocalist as well.
Very cool.
Also, you can scratch my last name if you want to.
Okay. First names only. So let's start at the beginning. When did you guys form?
It's 2000.
10 years ago this month.
Exactly 10 years to the day, pretty much.
Yeah,
it was like the first or second week of May 2005. Played our first show just about a month later in June.
With Deadbird.
With Deadbird from Arkansas, who we love.
So you guys, you wrote a bunch of material in a month?
We did.
We wrote a lot of riff salad. Is what basically what we did. You know, When we started this band, I wasn't a guitar player. I was a singer for other crappy bands, and I got really tired of that. And and honestly, I've always been a fan of like Neurosis and those types of bands. And basically, the reason I started playing was guitar was because I saw Yob one day, and it just inspired me to be a guitar player. So I started writing guitar stuff that the bands I was in couldn't even play. So, and I jammed on and off with Gary for years, just doing kooky kind of metally, grinding nonsense stuff. That was, just stuff we played.
Yeah, I wasn't a drummer until I started playing with these guys. I would hit drums at friends' houses, because it was fun, and someone would pick up a guitar and say, I need a drummer, and I would say, okay, and I would try to play blast beats or something, whatever, because we were all into really heavy music, and really any kind of music that we felt like making, but it wasn't until I started playing with Tom and Gary that I really took it seriously and realized that it was one of my favorite forms of expression, and it continues to be that way to this day.
And coincidentally, we had jammed, the three of us, like a year prior, just an off kind of thing. We got together and played, and it was fun. And then we never did anything until like a year later when we played and realized we actually, I was looking for an outlet that I could make music through that wasn't me being a singer of bands, where I didn't like the music or had no control over what they were playing.
Right. Did you guys know each other pretty well before the band?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've known Gary since I was 10 years old. And Kevin since, you were like 17 or something?
Yeah, I met Gary when I was 15, and I met Tom when I was 17, and we started playing when I was 23. So, we had a history, and we were all very, very close from the get-go. We always went to shows together, sat around and made fun of each other, whatever. But we were really, really tight-knit from the beginning of when we met each other.
Were you guys always into this kind of slow jam music?
We were just always into music in general, but heavy music was definitely something that we all really came together on. And being younger and just going to hardcore shows all the time, and any kind of shows, it just seemed like at that point in where we grew up, the town in New Haven, it just seemed like we were getting all these great bands coming through. Like he said, Neurosis was playing, Kiss It Goodbye was playing, Dead Guy was playing, Coalesce was playing, Jesuit was, we would just go, and it was like a huge conglomerate of friends.
Overcast and Dissolve once a month or so.
Yeah.
Constantly.
So we kind of, like I said, I was younger than these guys, so I was this little corny kid seeing these amazing bands and being totally blown away and realizing there was so much more to music.
We're from an area, well, I never lived there, but I consider it somewhere I'm from, New Haven County, or New Haven, the city. That's mainly where we come from. We have a huge circle of friends, of family, that are just different musicians of different types and different people, different genres, different cultures, all in one place. And we were always just sort of surrounded by abundance of variety when it came to things as far as music goes.
And everyone was really supportive of each other's music. It didn't matter that, you played in the metal band and I played in a funk band. It's awesome. you know, and we go support each other because it's a small town, you know, and
It was a music scene, not necessarily a hardcore scene or a metal scene. Or...
it's so much. I mean,
It had a period of being a hardcore scene, which didn't last very long due to the violence that it brought. You know, before that, you could go see hardcore bands with death metal bands and ska bands, and it was a real weird mix of bands. And then, you know, hardcore took off. I don't know, it's somewhere in mid '90s or early '90s, and then it became a lot of just angry, ragey meatheads.
it became a place for people to go and pick fights at instead of people going to enjoy music, you know.
It got corny.
It got corny, exactly. You know, you went from like being able to go to a show and have a good time, and maybe there was a circle pit or something, to guys that were 3 times your size, just literally just punching you in the face because they could.
It went from being a place where you could go to you could go to a punk show and it would have so many different types of people because so many different types of bands would play, and things slowly got segregated from each other. And it's funny because I could, in the span of the time that I've been into music, I pretty much watched the scene that I was part of grow up and then die. Because it turned to nothing. It was almost it came a point where there's really nowhere to play, you know, nowhere for people like us to play, you know.
Did you guys have any goals when you first started?
Let out anger, let out stress.
Just to really to create something together, to make something unique possibly, but really it was just about us getting together and being friends and having an opportunity to create something out of nothing that was rewarding, that felt good for all of us. And it's pretty much continued to be that same feeling. You know, it's everybody goes through good times and really, really bad times, and this band has always been there as sort of a backbone for us to work through whatever we're dealing with at the time. And you know, I feel so lucky to have this because of that reason.
And it's funny, I hear bands talk about like their practice schedules and whatnot, and since we've been together, have practiced twice a week the entire time, you know, aside from periods where it's like, oh, someone's sick or, you know, someone's got plans. But it's been, our band consists of 2 practices a week, you know. That's what we do because it's our time. It's, you know, even if it doesn't turn out that we really got anything accomplished, I think it's good that we keep a strong friendship between us, you know, and having that's the one thing we have been, you know, diligent about, is making sure we get our practices in, you know, because it gives us time. You know, it's therapy. It's, you know, I don't know why other people play music, but I know why I play it, and I know why they play it, and you know, I'm like, well, yeah, let's practice every other week or once a week. I'm like, that just doesn't work. You know, I need it more than that. You know.
How soon before you recorded your first album?
Year? Half a
Grave of
year?
the Mammoth was probably the initial demo recording of that was probably a year and a half.
The 3 songs was the middle of 2006. Honestly, it was about a year. It was about a year later we did our first recording, and then we re-recorded the Grave of the Mammoth during the sessions for the Harvest to get a better recording of it because we didn't like the original. So
And
I
that
guess
was
we recorded 2
2007.
albums in 2 years.
Is the re-recorded version the version that's on your Bandcamp?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one from the
07.
same sessions as the Harvest 07.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about that music when you listen to it now?
I still really dig it. It's juvenile and it's part into part. It's a riff salad basically. We not being somebody who's played music for all that long, you know, for me it was hard to piece things together. You know, we sort of came up with a formula for how we do things, you know, as opposed to having part after part, you know, riff to this, chorus, blah blah blah. What we do is we it's just something we do, is we take a riff and expand on that. And we could have entire songs that are made off of the same riff, but go in crazy different directions, but they're still based off of that riff. You know, so as opposed to, like, I've heard tons of bands that'll play a riff and I'll be like, man, I wish they played that for longer. You know, and what we do is we try to find the spot that we're like, okay, that's enough with that, and dime it back from that, so that it doesn't get boring to us, but we have plenty of time to enjoy what's going on within the riff, you know?
I mean, for me, like, looking back, it's each one of those records, I remember at the time being totally psyched about. You know, it was where we were musically, you know, where we were in whatever realm of our life, and it was great. But I think the sort of, you know, you'd asked earlier about what's the goal.
Right.
And I think for me anyway, the goal is just to keep progressing, keep, you know, maturing. And so I look back at these things, the other records, and I'm like, oh, there's some fun stuff on there. But I definitely, it's definitely marked. It's aged. The Harvest probably is aged a little better, but I still don't shun other releases. I think, again, as Tom said, you know, we've always sort of had a general formula, but every once in a while we get kind of sidetracked, especially when we feel possibly uninspired by what we're currently doing, or not even that, but just more of an aspiration to do more, you know, to kind of step outside of our comfort zone and try to tackle something else. But regardless, or inevitably, it always comes back to that, you know, that's where we're our most comfortable, is just really expanding on a basic idea and keeping it, you know, around that.
never remain free if they are not willing, if need be, to fight for their vital interests.
Don't read the Bible for a moral code. It advocates prejudice, cruelty, superstition, and murder.
There will be no tolerance extended. There'll be no peace. There'll be no money. There'll be nothing. God is not loving. God is everything. God is evil.
This is not God. This is violence. It's subtle, emotional war. It's exactly what religion has been doing.
How could you believe or worship a higher being, that they choose to call God, that's supposed to be loving, it's supposed to be merciful and kind? They talk about free will, this, that. It wasn't a 3-year-old's free will to die on leukemia.
I changed my mind. God does not exist.
How can America send troops to other countries to bring so-called democracy, to bring freedom? But yet you're not truly free 100% in your own country.
Religion has played a major part in all wars for as far back as one can go in history.
We are no longer governed by free opinion, no longer governed by conviction and the voting majority, but are governed by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men.
If a person, no matter what race they have, no matter what skin color they've got, no matter what religious beliefs they have, if a person spends most of their life being victimized by the way they look, there's a pretty good chance they're going to grow up thinking that race makes a difference. There's a pretty good chance they're going to grow up thinking violence and abuse is a good way to solve those issues. Because that's what they learn. That's how they experience the differences between us.
We should allow all people to have their belief systems in this country.
But it's when your religion moves into my public schools, when your religion tries to tear down our secular system of law and starts infringing on my freedom from religion, which is a constitutional right. When that's when I get angry. I value a personal freedom to choose to believe. If you want to believe whatever you like, but I will at least have a constant of knowing that I am not contributing as much to the decline of culture and society as a religious person is.
I don't believe in that God. Do you?
your writing process like? Because it kind of sounds like you guys write as a group, or almost like you guys write out of jams.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
Mostly.
There's times where I'll bring a riff and we'll work on it.
And then those riffs become songs, basically.
One of the things we are really good at, and we are actually soon going to be putting out a release that we recorded 2 years ago, maybe.
A year and a half, something like that.
What we do is we get together for practice, we set up the record, and we just play. And we'll record. And that's actually
Pick
where
a
a lot
key
of
and go.
a lot of our stuff, and we pick a key so that everybody knows what we're working with and around. So it varies from there, but everybody knows what we're going back to. And we're really good at reading each other when we play, and we're really good at going from something insane into something cohesive. And I think it's just because we learn together, but we write a lot of stuff from jamming on it, and like I said, the piece we're going to put out is a jam we did. It's about, 45 minutes. And it was from start to finish just something where we sat back and we're like, wow, this is nice. And it goes back to the last release, the Earth Wants Us Dead. The title track, the 45-minute piece, was an improv piece we recorded on the fly in our friend's studio. It was like, oh, let's try and do this, and we did it, and it turned out awesome. And we have recordings of jams we've recorded, where we're like, what the hell's going on? Where it's like stuff just didn't sync up, but we've gotten parts from that. The majority of our songs come from us jamming, and it's just something about our chemistry. We're able to play and sort of follow each other and know what we're doing. And I think, again, it goes back to the fact that we've learned together.
Does any of that translate to when you play live? Or when you play live, are the songs very much structured like they are on the albums?
We've toyed with the idea of doing stuff like that. We just haven't yet. Me and Gary have a side project we played out one time, and it's Sea of Drones, and it's basically just guitar and bass, and we just play, and it's droney stuff. And we got a couple releases up that he's put up. But as a band, we just have never gotten there. And it's not something we are like, absolutely not. It's just
wouldn't be opposed to it.
No, not at all. It's just...
If someone wanted to give us 2 hours, I'd run through the set and then jam for an hour. Why not?
At the same time, you'll never see the same Sea of Bones show twice. Certain, we might be feeling really fired up, and the set might be a little bit faster. We might not be. We might, be on week 3 of a tour, and it's a little slower. Speaking from my own standpoint, there's, I think, almost constantly, there's always little subtle variations that I do with the drums, just because it's in the moment. You're playing, and it's kind of like, well, I'm just feeling this way, and I want to kind of give this part a little bit more. And it's never a drastic change by any means. It's just, it's learning how to fill out the space, providing sometimes different accents to certain areas. Much like, our sound and our songs are pretty expansive due to, Tom's setup. He has so many effects going that he's creating all these soundscapes that, and they're not always exactly the same. So it's enjoyable for me to kind of play around with that.
Yeah, so hints of variation, but nothing really, yeah.
We're
not improvising going on. We don't
No.
jump into something. Maybe the riff's a little different, or it's played a little slow. So, riff on it a little different or something. But for the most part, and we're not jazzing it up.
I think the problem is that with the improv stuff and the droney noise stuff is it's not for everyone. We've got some weird comments about the end track on The Earth Wants Us Dead, where if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
Quasi complaints.
People are like, oh, what the hell is that even there? Yeah. Some people just aren't into that, and I don't want to play a show to a bunch of people that are like that. I'd rather play a show to a bunch of people that want to hear something like that. To me, if I play a show and a bunch of people are like ill, I'm not even into it. I'm like, why am I doing this? I could just be home,
We have toyed with the idea of playing a show that was specifically labeled as a Sea of Bones drone set. So people knew what they were getting themselves into. And if you want to see like loud, heavy, crazy stuff, you might not want to check out this show. But for the people that kind of like appreciate those aspects of our music in those crazy, sludgy songs or whatever, I think they would have a good time. So you never know. It could happen.
Could happen. We've had the request, but have not fulfilled it yet.
I have to say that this strikes me as a little bit strange because I feel like your audience should be. I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like they should know kind of what they're in for, even with just like the long, like 35-minute drone song at the end of "The Earth Wants Us Dead." And, I don't know.
Well,
like, do you find that there are people who like only like part of your sound? And,
absolutely.
Like,
and
okay.
I mean, and who's to say that the people that were dogging that track weren't just trolls that wanted something to complain about? I mean, let's be honest here. But I think too, there's people that just they want to be constantly bludgeoned, and when there's like those moments of respite or those very long passages of respite, and the whole idea of that track was that it was the conclusion. That whole album has a very specific theme. Lyrically, it follows a very specific path. It's a rise and a fall, and sort of a rise again, of basically about life on this planet. And so for us, it just made perfect sense to include that. But I guess if you're not picking up on that, you might feel like it's sort of, why is that there?
Right.
But for us, it's perfect. It's the way it should be, and it shouldn't be any way else.
I think there's also a problem with, and I'm guilty of this myself, is that a lot of people listen to music but aren't hearing it. Like like somebody could listen to us and be like, "Oh, that's noise, that's garbage, it's terrible," and I'm like, why don't you step back and actually listen? Listen to what's going on within it. It's so many times people will go out of their way to dog anything that's heavy or people yelling, and it's just like, I don't understand. Music it's to me the greatest music is visceral and real and angry, because that's exactly it. It's honest. It's us being like, this is how we feel. This is our take on life, and we're not, it's not like we're just all sitting around going, oh man, life sucks. I mean, a lot of time we are, but it's not based on just trying to be angry. It's based on, I am this type of person, and this is how I feel, and this is how I get it out. Do I listen to heavy music all the time? No, I don't. I listen to the few heavy bands that I like, and occasionally stuff will come out that I like, or older stuff, but I generally listen to everything. I listen to a lot of different stuff, and I think that's, to be a good musician, you have to be open to be able to understand and like lots of different music. I don't see the point in pigeonholing yourself into one thing, because you will miss out on a lot. And it goes back to the definition of something being heavy. Heavy is relative. I've heard stuff that would be considered really light, and I'm like, no, you're not hearing it. That's heavy. Like, you take a mono track and you listen to it. It could be quiet, but it's heavy. Like, there's something to it that gets inside you. Like, it's not. You can't just look. It's like judging a book by its cover. You have to be able to, in your mind, understand what's going on with the music. You make your own story of it, whatever you have to do. But there's lots about music that's heavy, that without being loud.
well, we'll get to The Earth Wants Us Dead in a little while, but I think specifically like that song made an impression on me because it reminded me of when I was like 15, 16 years old and I heard Godflesh for the first time. All of a sudden there's like weird like noise parts that would go on for 20 minutes.
Pure 2.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? And I guess I was of the mentality that, you know, even though I was mostly a death metal kid, it was like, you know, something like this is affecting me in some way. And so I have to figure out like what this is and why this is on the album and why it ends like this way.
Right.
So I guess, you know, hopefully you guys find yourselves that kind of audience. But I feel like they are out there. You just have to, I don't know.
Absolutely. I think the perfect way in my mind to sum that up is that you don't have to stick to one guideline to get your point across. I think it's more, as Tom said, you know, people hear things but don't really listen. You know, it's really more about an emotion, a feeling, about being involved with something where you're no longer in a room with a bunch of people. You are kind of taken to a different place, and I don't think of that ride has to be in the same vehicle. You know, so many different things can transport you, and you know, our sound really is all just about. It's really about emotion. It's purely about how we feel about everything. And you know, sometimes we're really fucking pissed off, and we're like, well, this riff is gonna bludgeon you. And there's times where we're really fucking sad, man. I just want to go somewhere else. And that's where a lot of our improvisational pieces come from, is just Tom starts with a drone. And we slowly, once we feel comfortable coming out of our shells and our own mental spaces, the piece really begins. But to say that, you know, you have to do this, it has to be, you know, 16 BPMs, or it has to be, you know, whatever, is just, I mean, that's so restricting. It's so limiting, and I would never want to do that.
Well, the way I look at it is that if you take a song you really like from a band, what you're basically listening to is a moment, and the person that wrote that's their life, you know. So if it resonates in you, it's because you somehow identify with the moment that they were having.
Reaction, I think, is what we react to each other, and then someone has a reaction to us reacting to each other. So it's all just going outwards from inwards.
You know, it's if you're just going to hear something as heavy and loud and angry, then you really you're not taking anything from it that is actually being put out by the music. You know, I don't know. I don't like all this, like the stereotypes of different music. Like, why does everything need a name? It's got to be this kind of music or that kind of music. Can't it just be music? You know, like the only people responsible for what that sounds like are the people creating it. So for people to judge it, any kind of music, any genre is you don't really have the right, you know. It's just it's not your right. You didn't write it, you know. You don't want to like it, don't like it. But to whoever wrote it, and there's lots of music that sucks. Like there is. I'm sorry. There's lots of music that's terrible. But I'm not going to go out of my way to walk up to someone and be like, man, your band sucks. I just keep it to myself, you know. Like I'm just that's not my.
I'll let them know. I have no problem with that.
One of the things that I really appreciate about Sea of Bones, and I even got this when I saw you guys at Fontana's, is there is a real sense that you guys write, or maybe just play with dynamics. Like, dynamics seem very important to you. Loud, soft, the build.
That is completely on accident, by accident. That's
it's not. You are very. I disagree.
It has more to do with our chemistry. Like, we don't go into a part being like, we have to do this with it. We play a part and we work it out to the best feeling we get from it. It's not like we set out to make something.
Sometimes, but also there's many times where we're writing songs and it's like, no, I don't want the riff. The riff is going to change, but the drums don't change. No, like there's a very specific desire to create these peaks and valleys. I mean, if we're jamming and improvising, it's fine. But when we're writing a song dynamics are very important.
It seems
to us.
very deliberate.
It's very deliberate. You know,
Well,
like we could. I mean, I could just sit there and play a 4/4 beat till the end of time.
We mull over the song so many times. We're working on a song for a split right now that we have rewritten 12 times. And
It's true.
We're
also perfectionists.
It's got to sound exactly how it's supposed to sound. And we just don't know what that is until it's finally done. Okay, no, that's it. There it is.
And more importantly than that, it has to feel right to us. It has, when we play it, it has to go from beginning to end without any questioning of what it's doing. Like, we like to get things to a point where we could play through a whole song and be like, man, yeah, you know, not have like parts like filler parts. I don't want filler parts. If I think something's a filler part, I'm gonna get rid of it. You know, I want beginning to end to be organic. You know, and organic's sort of a cheesy word to use, but to me that's what I want to do. I want it to go from beginning to end on a path that is cohesive. You know, if that makes any sense. You know, I want to have fun while I'm playing it, but I also want to be able to not be confused by what it's doing, you know?
Let's talk about The Earth Wants Us Dead. How would you compare it to the first two releases?
Oh, I'll take a jump on this. So there's a bit of history and a bit of explanation that goes into that entire record. So when we first started, we were we were fired up, we were super inspired, we were super excited, and during our tour for the Harvest, we experienced some setbacks. In the form of we crashed our van, lost a lot of our gear, couldn't finish the tour. Just, you know,
we were on the other side of the country, in Idaho. You know,
we were in the mountains of Idaho. You know, it took hours for anyone to even find us. We're just like sweeping our broken shit off the highway, and you know, we kind of went back home in a very defeated place, and that mixed with a lot of personal conflicts and I mean, I say this lightly, but like addictions and just like general feelings, like a lot of self-loathing. It took us a long time. I feel that we were really lost for a while. We kept trying to write new music, and we had these like 2 25-minute songs that we kept rewriting and feeling that they weren't enough, and inviting new people into the band and playing with them for a while, and then realizing that wasn't working out. And we did this about 3 or 4 times, expanding our lineup, and it always seemed to go back to the 3-piece, the 3 of us, the original lineup. And then finally it came down to us being like, all right, there's no more of this like searching out someone else. Like, this band is the 3 of us. It will always be the 3 of us, and it should only be the 3 of us.
Well, it also took not Gary so much, but me and you getting to the point where our friendship was going to end. Like,
yeah, there were a lot of personal conflicts.
Me and him specifically, we weren't getting along. I'm ruthless when it comes to the band. Like, and it's not personal. It's just it's what makes me happy, you know. So I'm
It
very
seems like this is your baby.
I'm very aggressive about it, and he was going through a lot of shit, you know, finding himself. He was younger. He was trying to find himself, trying to figure out his life, and band practice was just, he wasn't there. You know, he wasn't there in his drumming. He wasn't there emotionally, and it got to me. You know, it got to me the point where I attacked him on everything. You know, which I was being an asshole, but it's just, you know, it was my defense for.
But the reason why you were doing that is all very valid. So
I was also going through my shit too. You know, the one problem I have with him is I've always treated him like a little brother. That's the truth of it. I've always seen you as a little brother. You know, I got to yell at you and tell you to do things. You know, it was never like, oh, he's another man. I'm like, he's a fucking kid. You know, fuck him.
He's going to start charging us an hour if we keep talking like this. Anyways,
it got to a point where me and him were
I'm just an interviewer. I'm not a therapist. This isn't some kind of monster.
It got to a point where me and him were like, we sat down and said, dude, fuck, man, our friendship's fucked. This band's fucked. Let's not do this.
Basically, what it came down to was I showed up early to practice one day, and I was like, hey, I came here to quit. Why don't you tell me why I shouldn't? And we sat there and talked for several hours, and I realized that I didn't want to quit. It was just I was needing change.
I was also trying out other drummers.
And he was trying out other drummers. But we talked about it, and his whole thing was, if there's any part of you that wants to keep doing this, then do it. And there was. And so we did. And as soon as that really happened, the focus really came back. And then we wrote The Earth Wants Us Dead. And
it sounds very much like what you say you get out of the band, which is, tension and release. And it feels like the album itself was a kind of cathartic release for all of you. Is that fair?
Oh, it was.
Absolutely.
We wrote an entire album and scrapped it. We even recorded Earth Wants Us Dead. Before we recorded it. How many times?
When the drum piece came from, we recorded with our friend Scott, but just never ended up getting it mixed, and it just wasn't working out, and we weren't happy with the recording, and we just decided to redo it. Kept the drone piece because it was awesome.
It was 7 years between our releases.
Yep. We scrapped 2009 or 10. We scrapped the 2 20+ minute songs, bits and pieces on some of the songs on The Earth Wants Us Dead, but mostly just all new stuff. Just wrote a bunch of new songs, and yeah, that was it.
So yeah, that record is 7 years of complete mental anxiety,
ups and downs in our personal lives.
It's
deaths.
very many deaths. It's very evident. Or if not, I'm happy that you picked up on that. But it's an incredibly emotional record. I mean, come on. It's called The Earth Wants Us Dead. We were all kind of feeling that way for a while. And I guess we still do.
Yeah, I actually took it to mean something else. Like I felt it was very much like almost an environmental message, which was, planet Earth is just trying to destroy the human race. I didn't think
that's actually accurate.
Okay, all right.
What it is it starts. It's based off
We came up with a story to make sense out of our own personal loathings and hatreds and the shit we had gone through, and writing this music, and we were like, the human race is shit.
There's a lot to it. It's religious, it's political, it's personal, it's emotional. It has to do with the earth. It has to do with people. There's a lot to it. Like if you look at the tracks and their names and in their orders, there's a distinct story that goes along with it. It's not just about one thing. It's about from beginning to end. The first track,
Stone Slave and the Architect.
Stone Slave and the Architect. It's the name.
It's basically about once human beings started living in large scale societies, and in which class orders began to appear. And then you have Black Arm, which is essentially kind of the Industrial Revolution, where technology and the conveyor belt system, the factory system, basically took all of the personal freedom and joys from people's lives and just sucked them away. Failure of Light is kind of like jumping forward to our current time, where we're sort of seeing, the mass destruction of our environment and how that relates to our own survival. And then the last two tracks were sort of us creating a what if scenario, where Beneath the Earth is quite literal. It's kind of about, what happens when we can't live above ground anymore because we've parched the earth of any kind of, comfort or productivity. And then the bridge with that name sort of is about us getting the human race sort of trying to rebuild and get to a place where we can reinvent our ways of life and try to get over the atrocities that our race has committed.
Taking the earth back for the earth and for the people that care. That's the bridges to me is one of the. It's just about triumph, and it's about going home, in every sense of that,
And it's just as much a metaphor for our daily lives, everyone's daily life, and the things that we deal with.
It's hints of our pain that we're going through, just interwoven in a story of, how we see society from birth to end.
The other thing that struck me about the album is the sound is fucking incredible. Did yourself quick.
I did, yeah. We've been to studios. Not happy with any of them. The problem is that, and I call it guerrilla recording because I'm not, I was never trained this. I just taught myself how to do it. Basically the problem is I have a lot of effects. I have a lot going on. There's lots of nuances you won't get by just sticking a microphone in front of an amp. So we go in a studio, they stick a microphone in front of an amp and record it, and I'm just like, I don't hear the keyboard parts that are going on that when we don't have a keyboard player. I don't hear the noise, the energy, the wind. It's too cleaned up. So there's a lot of things I do to make a recording sound like how I think we sound like live, what I hear live, and you're not, we're nobodies. Nobody's going to spend their time doing that for us.
Essentially, we're not the Beatles, and we don't have like a month to record a record every day. Recording things ourselves gives us a lot of time to really nail it the way we want to. Whether it's, just really tweaking things. Tom does a lot of overdubs, a lot of, textural things with this. What do you have, like 15 guitar tracks on Earth Once Is Dead?
I did.
Literally?
And it's all and what I do is I match those tracks to what my pedals do, and then I record the tracks individually so that the layers go together in a way that sound when I'm playing it. What I want people to hear from a record is what we hear like live. I don't want a cleaned up thing that for people to listen to because that's not what we sound like. You come to see us, you're gonna hear dirty, raw, fucking angry music. I don't want you to get a CD that's prettied up. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You're getting a dirty, loud recording.
Essentially, that record sounds great because Tom sat in his studio for 8 hours a day, weeks on end, having an aneurysm most of the time. But it was all worth it because he was just getting better and better and better at the recording process, at the engineering process, at the mixing process. To now, we feel so confident with our newer recordings that there's no question. It's like we're gonna do this and it's gonna be great. And it's always a learning experience. We're always learning new ways to do things.
Now it's like that to me because I'd mastered all the stuff I'm doing. I know my program. I know my equipment. It's not. It was a learning process before. Now it's just like, oh, do this. I know where that goes. And we had some help on the recording too. A friend of ours, Dave, helped. We did a bunch of extra recordings. We double recorded the drums so that we could get more organic live sounds as opposed to adding a bunch of reverb to stuff. He had his machine and he recorded everything through his machine. So it was a separate recording from what we had. And he would take, for instance, okay, if you're in a studio, it doesn't have great reverb. You add a tons of reverb. It sounds digitally. It sounds, you could hear it. And what he did, and this was all his idea. An amazing creative person. His idea was to take the recordings of the drums to their practice space with his other band, which is this massive open room, play them back through the PA and re-record them. And what we ended up with was we mixed those with all the tracks we had, and you get a really organic live sounding drum set. I don't have the ability to do that because the place we record is a tiny small basement room, and I'd rather have organic sounding liveness to the music as opposed to trying to add it with effects and stuff because it's not you're not going to hear that when we're playing live. You're going to hear the organic sound taking everything.
Is that important to you guys, capturing your live sound?
It is. To me, it's one of the most important things because, like I said, when somebody gets a CD of ours and they open it up and listen to it, I want them to know what we're going to sound like live.
It should be as cacophonous
as
we are live.
Yeah. I think there's sort of there's a two-part answer to that question. I think that we want the intensity, sort of the bludgeoning effect of seeing us live, but we want to be so we don't want it to be a polished recording. At the same time, we want to be able to go back and tweak things here and there that maybe in the overall volume of a live performance kind of get lost in the mix, so tweaking little ambient parts that come through in the middle of a heavy riff and really giving them a lot of focus. But yeah, the live thing, basically recording a record, you have the people that are like, well, we're recording a record, so it's gonna be exactly what we want it to be, theatrically or whatever. For us, it's like we require that just knock you over the head, sort of Neanderthal approach, but we also like the ability to manipulate that in a bit more of a dynamic manner, I think.
It needs to be us on a recording or us live. It needs to be the same thing. Obviously, it's not going to be the same because it's a different medium, but it's really important for me that people take away from a record what we're going to sound like live. It's noise, it's noisy, it's angry, it's heavy, it's loud. That's what it is. So why have a recording that doesn't reflect that? It's like the sleight of hand. How many I've seen tons of bands where I'm like, this is a great recording, and seen them live and been like, this isn't very good. Because there's so much different stuff that's been done.
Did you ever discover anything on the recordings that you didn't know were happening live? Like maybe that the other instruments are doing?
No, I hear it. I that's the one thing I could say is I love.
That's
the
what
way
comes
our
from
music
practicing
sounds.
twice a week. You hear everything, and we practice, and it's not like we show up and play for an hour. We're there for 4 or 5 hours a week, or for 10 hours a week, pretty much. There's no surprises.
Dude, I hear it.
We hammer through these songs so much. We hear everything.
We hear voices. I hear singing, chanting, keyboards, anything. It's just, and it's because I have 20-son pedals, and they're on mostly all the time. So, it's.
By the way, our answers are probably almost as long as our songs, but sorry, go ahead.
I'm not good at interviewing.
I think we're about near the end. Let's talk about what you guys have coming up. You mentioned a couple of splits.
Yes.
We're working on a track for a split with Ramlord. What's the record label?
Anyways, we'll get that to you.
Okay.
I think, is it Broken Limbs?
Yeah, that's
Broken Limbs. And then we're also working, actually with the same label, on a split with our friends Primitive Man.
If it ever happens.
If it ever happens. But we're working on it. We've known Ethan for forever. When he was in Clinging to the Trees of a Forest Fire, we played a bunch of shows with those guys. Great dudes.
We also did a cover song that I'm not even going to get into mentioning. That's supposed to come out soon or soonish.
It's a good thing, but we don't want to spoil it in case no one knows. But
is it for like a compilation? Or?
You will see Sea of Bones covering a very iconic song on a compilation, hopefully soon. I just don't know if we're allowed to talk.
Yeah, I just don't know when. I thought it was going to be out months ago, but
yeah, so did we. And also, we're beginning the process of working on songs for the next record, which we're very excited about. We really want to push forward. We're ready. We're definitely not intending it to take another 7 years. I don't want it to take 3 years. I mean, we all talked about this. We want to get this record out. But again, our songwriting process is kind of laborious, and it takes a while because we're all such perfectionists, and we nitpick everything.
And
but that's the only way it can be comfortable for us to play them.
The new songs are going to have a different level of weirdness to them because we're working on keyboard stuff too.
Don't spoil it, dude.
Well, it's
secrets.
It is a secret. Nobody's going to understand. Like, are they getting a keyboard player? Maybe. No. We're not getting no more members, never. But it's part of my evolution.
You may see more instrumentation, is all we'll say for the next release.
Anything else you guys want to plug? Tours, shows?
Well, if you are a Connecticut-bound individual, or if you feel like driving for a bit, we will be playing next week, May 12th, at Cherry Street Station with Beneath Oblivion, who we are playing with tonight, and a bunch of great local bands. We don't really have anything booked at the moment, as we're really focused on recording our new record, and so hopefully, we'll have we'll have a new record out for you pretty soon. And I don't know, support honest people. That's that.
Very cool. Gary, do you want anything?
Shout out.
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
You can tell people to give you a Kickstarter fund, or they can send you checks every month. I was thinking about that, but I blew it. So.
Leave me alone. Everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
That's where that should end. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.